They're skinheads that hang out organizing this event.
Really? Where? I mean, he's got no hair, but I don't know. Does he have like the?
I mean,
how do you know he's a skinhead just because he's bald?
In skinhead style, he's in a right-wing event. I mean, like, what do you?
I don't know.
Put two and two together.
It could be. It could
so,
be.
like, why would you associate yourself with that?
I'm not. I'm just checking it out.
Medical condition that I got while serving in the military. So I had a backpack on that stops cell phone signals from detonating bombs under our feet, and it either gives you a big white stripe up your head, or if you, do you mind touching me? So feel like right there. Baby smooth, right? That's it right now. So I got patches in my head. So I had to shave my head because how would you rather be like have weird awkward patches in my head? That'd be weird as fuck. So I just shave it because it looks better than having patches. But no, I'm not a skinhead.
He said you were.
Technically, I'm a skinhead, but I don't believe in the ideology. Because technically, so.
He said you were wearing the getup and you had like put two and two together. He says. You know, you got the getup, and I was skeptical. I had no idea one way or the other.
No, I don't. I'm not a white nationalist. No, I'm not a white supremacist. No, I'm not. I don't believe in Hitler. Like, I don't do the goose step. Like, I don't do it.
Yeah.
Literally, the only reason I'm bald is because I have alopecia.
Hey everyone, so we're here with Kyle, and I believe you were at the Seattle protest. Do I have that right?
I was.
All right. Well, would you care to share some of your thoughts and experiences?
Yeah, sure. I actually got to speak. I met Joey Gibson, who's the founder of Patriot Prayer Group, a couple months back. I believe I met him around May Day, actually. You can actually look it up on Google as Seattle Times May Day Peace Joint. And it's me on the front cover. I used some weed to actually bring the pro-Trumpers and the anti-Trumpers, people who were Antifa and that, and I brought them together.
Really?
Yeah, look it up on Google, man. Front page of the Seattle Times. And it was really cool at the time. Met him. He was a decent guy. I think he's Hispanic, actually. But since then, he's just been railed as a white supremacist and a neo-Nazi and a whole bunch of ridiculousness like that.
Yeah, and I've personally seen him in footage, and he seems like a really nice guy. That was the thing I got out of the footage. That's actually why I remembered him, is I distinctly remember him going up to Antifa people saying, please shake my hand. I don't want to be enemies with you. I want to start a conversation. Let's not do this. Shake my hand. And he was distraught. He did in the video. He's like, well, they slashed my tires and not one of them shook my hand. It was just disgraceful.
Yeah,
Could you tell us what happened?
Basically, we had our speeches over there. We came walking up. I tried to go up, shake hands, talk to them. They didn't have it. They threw a can at me, hit me right in the face. Not one person shook my hand. Not one. I just want to have a conversation. I come over here. I walk all the way over here. I talk to a couple of guys. All they do, they can't even talk. One guy had a little bit of conversation. They called me a fascist, called me a racist. The same stuff you hear over and over and over again. Okay, and then someone reached over and just pepper sprayed me. That's it, man. That's all they got. I'm asking that we have a conversation. We get better. All this hatred, we don't need anymore. They act like they're against hate. There's no way. If they're against hate, then they would take my hand and shake it like a man. That's all I'm asking for.
Right on.
Yeah, he's a decent guy. I'm not a member of Patriot Prayer, but overall, he's a decent guy. I ended up kind of being a middle ground kind of guy. I'm not a huge. I was in the military for a while, and I'm a huge advocate for the freedom of speech, but I'm not really a Christian, and so I didn't feel like I would be, extremely welcome to the Patriot Prayer Group. So I'm just kind of middle ground. But the thing is that even the Antifa people, they have a right to be the way they are. Like they have the freedom of speech just as anybody else. And unfortunately, they're young, so they have the right to be dumb and young at the same time. So that's okay. But overall, I try to keep the peace. Like, there's no reason to have violence as a result of political differences. And what we're seeing nowadays with this polarization and the pure hatred that comes simply out of disagreements. I've been on Twitter for only a short amount of time, but the very first people who followed my page were Antifa groups. It's weird. Yeah, and it actually kind of stems from I was labeled a Nazi back in like November of this year. I actually kind of attribute the creation of what's now been the moniker as the Virtuous Skinhead. And it's kind of the nickname that kind of grew out of it, which is just because I'm bald, I have alopecia. I can't grow hair. And so they kept calling me a skinhead. So I'm like, sure, I'll be the virtuous one. And it was a nickname that was given to me by the University of Texas, San Jose, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
So that one video went viral.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, actually, because I remember you distinctly go, no, touch my head. Right here, you see this part, and then touch this part. And you very calmly and patiently explain to these people, like, look, I'm not a Nazi, I'm just bald. You probably shouldn't just call every bald person you see a Nazi, because maybe they served in the military, and maybe they can't grow hair.
Yep, pretty much. And so, but this Seattle rally was a little different. I will say, I've been kind of going to a lot of these, meetups, either for Patriot Prayer Group or others, where I'm just trying to keep the peace. I try to get in the middle of people. There's a whole bunch of videos of me like separating people and trying to get people to be peaceful. But this one was a little different. The Seattle Patrol, or the Seattle PD, came out. They had erected barricades beforehand. They kept everybody separate, and it just kind of I can't say that it helped, because all it did is kind of create the divisive of like us versus them. I understand the sentiment, but I don't think it did what they were intending, because towards the end of it, the Antifa ended up throwing explosives and at the Seattle PD. They ended up stalking me. I got punched as well as kicked. There was a lot of people who ended up being assaulted. Actually, I noticed it on your video just recently. The guy who's dressed in all white, I've actually met him at multiple rallies, like Black Lives Matter rallies or Patriot Prayer Group rallies, anything that's centered here in Washington, including protests at the University of Washington, where I attend. Mm-hmm. He's normally there, and he's a really friendly guy. Anytime I've talked to him, there's nothing that comes across as a white supremacist sentiment. There's never really been anything that comes across as alt-right sentiment. It's just he's a conservative guy looking to document things on his bike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was legitimately worried about him. I saw that footage. They had him surrounded, and they're all chanting different things. Like, I was wondering, is he going to be the first one? Because I think it's just a matter of time. I just got a bad feeling about all these people.
And I can't blame you. The thing is that I'm not neutral in this. I mean, I'm neutral to the extent of I'm not willing to hurt anybody over political differences. I'm not one of those. On the other hand, I'm absolutely opposed to white supremacy, white nationalism, as well as Antifa. I think they're two sides of the same coin.
I entirely agree.
So but unfortunately what Antifa has done, they've kind of nestled themselves into an echo chamber that they just believe that they are altruistic in nature, that they have nothing bad about them, that they are the ones who are benevolent in this whole thing. Every single time I talk with Antifa, it is they're trying to kill my friends. And I think they've put themselves into such a disillusioned state that they genuinely believe this, and they're willing to defend it through violence. And that's what justifies it to them.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. They definitely feel justified 100%. The ends justify the means, which is why their actions are so short-sighted. They don't really notice what they're doing a lot of the time, or how it's going to create more support for the white nationalist and the white supremacist. That's how they gain traction, with being victimized continuously over the last year. And it's ironic to say, oh, these white supremacists have been victimized, but they haven't been able to speak. They've been attacked every time they go out and espouse their whatever they want to talk about. And that just creates a demand for wanting to make them speak, which creates then on the other side more, well, why are you standing up for these people? And it just keeps kind of balling out of control.
I think it's actually twofold. I agree with that sentiment. I mean, I remember when, I think it was Inauguration Day, when Richard Spencer got hit in the side of the face for just talking. And now you've created someone who has a detestable point of view. Now he seems like, the victim. And now people are like, oh, well, someone is trying to silence him. So yeah, I agree with you on that point. But there is one other factor that I think you need to take into account, which is when you look at Antifa's approach to the white nationalist ideology. One, the way you normally defeat white nationalists and white supremacists, you just kind of laugh at them. Mm-hmm. You make them powerless. But the problem is with calling everybody anybody and everybody who disagrees with them a Nazi. They've allowed those people who do have those points of view to rise with impunity, to infiltrate the ranks of like the Proud Boys, to infiltrate the people like they hang around the Patriot Prayer, they hang around the Proud Boys, they hang around Cascade Legion around here. They'll hang around anywhere that they can get their little claws into and just wrestle their way to having some form of credibility. And unfortunately, it's now, I fear, too pervasive that they've saturated any kind of political sphere with themselves, so nothing really seems legitimate.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
So, and it's genuinely fearful over here because I don't know what it's like in California. I saw the Battle of Berkeley with the whole Milo riots and everything like that, as well as what's her name, the activist for BAM, Polarka.
Oh, the Yvette Polarka.
Yeah, Yvette Polarka. I think she just changed her name to Anna or something.
Oh.
Yeah, she was just released out of jail, and I think she changed her first name.
That's not surprising. A lot of people seem to know her by name now.
Yeah, so you may want to look up and figure out her first name now. But regardless, like, she was charged on inciting a riot. I know kind of what's going on in California, not as much as up here in Oregon and Washington, but it's really no different. Anything that you get to, they're violent extremists. Most of them are, you'll definitely hear like the word bourgeoisie and a whole bunch of communistic kind of tropes come out of their face. And they wanted, and I don't know if you've read this. There's one guy that I've actually listened to before, but he had suggested the Paradoxical Alliance. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
It's a book, and if you send me your address, I'll actually probably send it to you. It's a really good book, and it's actually talking about the connection between the regressive left and why they're supporting, radical Islam, and why even though they have contrasting views like pro gay marriage and pro gay rights and pro immigrants versus we want to burn everybody alive who's not Islamic. And those, keep in mind, those are radical extremists, radical jihadis that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And why they pair up with one another. And it's because, I'll kind of fast forward the book. It's essentially, they both agree that you have to destroy the system in order to build the utopia they want.
Agreed. Yeah, that's the entire thing. That's why they want to do away with the entire Constitution, which is batshit insane as far as I'm concerned. I am sure not every individual in Antifa, but that seems to be the general goal, is destabilization.
I would agree. Every single person that I talk to, all they do is, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't really like a cop following me on the highway.
No, not at all.
But the thing is that overwhelmingly, the majority of the cops out there, like, yeah, there are some bad apples. There's probably a lot of bad apples out there. And the power of the state has gone way too far. On the other hand, there are decent people in the police force who are just trying to do their job and trying to protect their communities. And yet all they want to do is throw explosives at them. They want to kill some of these people, and it's unacceptable. This is not the American way how to deal with politics.
Yeah, absolutely. If they were interested in wanting to build a community, they would want to get to know these officers. They wouldn't want to wear a mask to a protest because you would want to stand behind what you believe in and want to be known for it because you're proud of what you stand for. But the thing is with them, it seems there is no consistent belief besides we're all together. We're all this big group of diverse people, and any sort of hatred against any of us or any one of us is hatred and attack against all of us.
Said the guy coming from behind a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Just joking with you, man.
No problem.
No, I get it. But the thing is that I agree with you. The only logical argument I've ever heard from Antifa as to why they cover their face is because they don't believe that the government has their best interest at heart, and for them to reveal who they are fighting against the government puts them at a genuine risk. Okay, that's a logical argument. The problem is that that's not what the actions they show. Mm-hmm. What they traditionally end up doing instead is actually just they leave their own. I was actually on the front page of the Blaze a little while ago down in Oregon. I think it was the Sunday. What's the date today? Yeah, last Sunday. So today's Tuesday, so it was last Sunday, not the 13th, but the one before that.
Right.
I was on the front cover of the Blaze, helping one of the people who had just gotten his face bashed in, one of the Antifa people. I was getting him away from the fight so he could actually be treated.
Right.
The thing is, they have no sense of community. They have no hierarchy. They don't have any devotion to one and each other. They don't care.
Yeah.
If you get hurt, if your friend gets hurt, I don't even know if they believe in friendship. They just, I really don't. They just allow themselves to be cast off. And I've actually, I went out for a couple beers with a couple of the Proud Boys before. I've gone out with the Patriot Prayer Group. I've gone out with a few people that I've actually had really cool meetings with. Just we'll talk about philosophy and politics and government and so on and so forth. I've hung out with Antifa before. And the only thing that they ever talk about is, one, getting high, and then two, how oppressed everyone is and how it's depressing, man. It's systematic oppression against everyone, and how, like, I'm surprised that, like, after every sentence they didn't just start snapping. It was very cultish. It was really creepy.
Yeah, they definitely give off that cultish vibe for sure. And I totally agree that they probably don't have any core beliefs or any sense of brotherhood or anything like that, because you've never seen like an honorable act come from any masked person during the Antifa movement. Definitely, at least. Like, what was that video? The first video that comes to mind when anyone talks about Antifa or brings them up is that one of the kid who's masked, who's telling the wheelchaired veteran, "You're an anti-American." It's just the most ironic thing.
Yeah,
he's wearing a veteran hat and he's in a wheelchair.
Jesus.
It's just Jesus, man.
They just have too much stuff to follow anymore. It's like every single thing they do is just tracked. Like, I mean, I'm glad that we're keeping track of everything, but there's so much stuff to follow because everything they do is damn near so reprehensible as an American, as a human being. And I'm not super patriotic. That's the thing. I'm not a super patriotic guy. But there is some things that just come down to, dude, this is so un-American. I don't know what the hell you're thinking.
Yeah. Like, they almost burnt down Berkeley. There was the fires got really close to actually burning down the campus when Antifa came through. I think during the Milo protest. It might have been when Ben Shapiro went to speak. I can't remember.
Yeah, that was the Battle of Berkeley where they cracked the guy over the head with the U-lock.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that was the same day. But the weird thing is the differences in response. So in California, like the Battle of Berkeley, they have told like the police to stand down.
Yes.
And when you do further investigation, you'll see like parts of the government are actually in favor of like the Antifa people and the other groups like that. But then you also have Oregon, which I haven't really looked into yet, but they just let them fight it out. That's serious, man. Anytime I go down there to witness one of these, they just the last Sunday, I again, the same thing when I was on the front page of the Blaze, Antifa opened up with a flying jump kick to a kid wearing the Kekistani flag.
Well, what a good way to kick stuff off.
I know. I'm like, the kid was a Hispanic kid. Like he was a younger guy, pretty short. And then it's like, yeah, we stand for minorities. And then they kick the shit out of one.
Well, he wasn't one of their token ones that espouse the same exact views. They actually, from what I've noticed from these witch hunt types, is they hate more than anybody someone who is black or someone who is Hispanic or somebody who is of a marginalized group that doesn't buy into all their bullshit because they see them as an Uncle Tom, so to speak.
You'll love this part. It's actually regarding the stuff that just happened here in Seattle, with the rally that you called me for. We had a group of speakers. One, like Joey Gibson, was on the very front, not a bad speaker. I got to speak after that, which, again, I look, don't get me wrong, I look like I'm one goose step away from Hitler's master race. I get it. Don't get me wrong. But I got a lot of boos after I had literally denounced any form of white supremacy, white nationalism. I literally called the guy over in Charlottesville a domestic terrorist, and his actions are reprehensible. No, I still got booed, and that's fine. I'm used to getting booed. I'm used to getting threatened. I'm used to getting assaulted. No big. On the other hand, we had a transgender person from Kurdistan speak on the stage. I shit you not. A transgender person from Kurdistan. I believe it is a male going into female.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So I don't know what I'm not really spun up on a lot of how to say them properly, but it's a male going into a female, I believe. Second Amendment kind of advocate. That person had a pistol and was talking about being an immigrant and coming here for American freedom, where she can live her life as she wanted to be the identity that she chose, to not live under a consistent state of fear.
Right.
And she was booed. She was like some of the black guys who went up there, they were called Uncle Toms and race traitors, and Joey Gibson was called a white nationalist or a white supremacist, even though he's Hispanic. Like anything they could, it didn't matter. If they were up on that stage, they were a traitor.
Yeah, it's all of those terms are just the same thing, which translates to something we don't like. Like that video that I showed in mine, the kid that was standing there, one guy calls him alt-right, then another person chimes in, he's a fascist, and then another person goes, he's a Nazi, and then another lady starts chanting, take his phone, over and over again. It was just, it felt like a mob. I was surprised there weren't torches and pitchforks, for fuck's sake.
If you don't mind, do you mind if I actually use your tape? I'll probably report it to the Seattle PD.
Oh yeah, no, go right ahead. I got it from Twitter or something, so it's not my original footage. Obviously, I wasn't there, but
It's okay under the copyright law. As long as you've already kind of used it for fair use, I can use your video.
Yeah. I talked about it, so I think it constitutes as it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it acts as a good witness because, like, a lot of those people are not wearing masks. Like, those people are inciting a riot right there.
Yeah, I would agree.
If I knew anybody in Pole, I would just like, guys, figure out who this is. But I don't really have too many connections.
That reminds me. So are you familiar with, after Charlottesville, there was a Twitter account that was doxing all of the people who were attending, like contacting their employers, got a lot of people fired. Well, Pole retaliated almost immediately. It's sticky to the top of Pole. I think it's still there if you go now. Is not only the guy's profile, his information, his bank account, his social security number, like everything. And then underneath that, every house he owns and its address, all of his family members and their docs, like they hit him hard.
Damn. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of doxing. I think it's harmful when either side does it, but damn, I mean, hate gets hate, I guess.
Yeah, it was almost as if they tried to do the 8chan thing, and they said, no, let us show you how it's done.
The power of autism at work.
Yeah, we thought we discovered something when we discovered the nuclear bomb. No, just wait till you tap into autism. Then you're really going to be splitting the atom.
All we have to do is like, no. I don't need nuclear war with North Korea. 4chan, go get them. Go get them, guys.
There's no doubt in my mind they would win.
Oh, I have no doubt. They somehow enough. Although I had kind of almost pivoting off of that, I had a curiosity. Maybe you can give me your analysis on it. So, 2 stories hit the news today, and it was GoDaddy.com restricted the Daily Stormer from having an HTML.
Yeah, I thought they took it down. They said
They did. They took it down, but on the exact same day, probably within the same hour frame, the Anonymous took over the Daily Stormer.
Of course they did.
Now I'm confused. Like, wait a minute. Who actually broke the terms and conditions? Because the Daily Stormer, reprehensible as it is, has been there for years.
Yeah.
Why the sudden shift, and why would they now break the terms and conditions?
Exactly. That was my thought as well. I haven't looked into it yet. But
don't get me wrong. Am I sad that the Daily Stormer's gone? No, I don't really care. More bye. But when you just, I don't know if that's a coincidence or not.
Right. It feels just more or less a response to Charlottesville and the protests as a way of getting sort of liberal street cred. Say, hey, we got rid of not GoDaddy, the Daily Stormer. I keep fucking it up. And I think that was only in response because somebody called him out on Twitter and it had like 10,000 likes saying, hey, the Daily Stormer is a website you host. You should take it down. And the next comment is, we have noticed that they broke our terms and conditions. We have. Yeah.
But then the question that the thing that I'm worried about is if this is going to be an extension of the Google memo.
I believe so. I think it's all been a chain reaction.
And that's what I fear, because one, then you would be at risk, my friend. Because no matter what, you're more than likely going to get demonetized.
Almost all my videos do.
Yeah, if you haven't already. So the thing is that with this Google Doc, with the GoDaddy.com, the thing is that with the ability for the entire regressive left, and that's what I will call them, it's because there's a big difference between a liberal and a regressive left. A liberal is just someone that I kind of disagree with on policy, and we just go back and forth. Hey, good job. You have a good day.
Mm-hmm.
A regressive left is if you don't agree with them, you're a fascist. You're a Nazi. So these regressive leftists, the ability for them to just get mainstream traction and derail anybody who even has a slightly conservative viewpoint, just destroy their entire lives, to either dox them or get them fired or anything else. They have some genuine power, and it's being manipulated or augmented by the mainstream media. This is a genuine fear for anybody who has wrongthink.
Yeah. Because hell, what we had, Sargon of Akkad got Auschwitzed from Twitter. Paul Joseph Watson got taken off of Facebook, and and then he also quit YouTube. So I was being ironic because he got, you're gonna love, I'm not sure if you've heard this. He got taken off of Twitter for arguing with people who were denying the Holocaust. So he was arguing for the Holocaust, like, hey, no, this really happened, and they banned his account for it.
Are you kidding me?
To my knowledge, that's how it went down. Though that was the conversation being had when his Twitter got fucking...
Although that terminology I'm sorry, that made me laugh. He got Auschwitzed from fucking Twitter. But if that's actually how it went down, I literally just made a Twitter.
I'm still on, so I don't know what they're... Maybe I just haven't rocked enough cages yet, but, I figured I would have pissed somebody off already.
Well, I mean, I just came on like a couple months ago, and sooner or later, I know I'm going to piss someone off.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is that it shouldn't have to be like that. And the thing is that Minds.com, which I'm going to do a plug for, I have no interest in, but Minds.com, if you can go there, go there. Sargon's there, and a whole bunch of other people are there. So Minds.com, MINDS, as well as VidMe. So start switching over if you can. I've already switched to Bing. The only reason I'm on Google Hangouts is because I'm talking to you.
Right. I actually had to open up Chrome because Pale Moon wouldn't run it. So it's good to know that there are more than just, people like ourselves that are going out and trying to get rid of Google on every form that we can, because they need to feel this.
Well, with the banning of Jordan Peterson from his entire Google account, not just YouTube, but his entire Google account, that really got a whole bunch of people's ears really flicking. So
especially because he was controversial because of the C16 stuff, but his opinions aren't controversial. He just talks about like mythology and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I've learned a lot from him. I'm a huge follower of him. I really like him.
Yeah, me too.
But there's nothing that he ever says that just kind of comes out of nowhere. I think the one that I like the best from him is where he's training his wife how to play. And like he's talking about rats, and you have to let the little rat win, and then he trained his wife how to play because she never played as a kid.
Oh, okay.
That's serious. If you haven't listened to that one, that's adorable.
No, I'm going to check it out.
Like a guy Marine like myself is like, oh, that's adorable. Yeah. But seriously, it's a really good story. But that's it. There's nothing controversial. He rarely even talks about politics. The most political one I saw was him talking about Marxism, and his answer to people who say that Marxism and communism has never been fully achieved.
I love that speech. It's funny. My brother, we just talked about that one. He pretty much verbatim recited it to me in the car and be like, have you heard this clip from... He's like, I'm going to try to recite it from memory. And he says it to me, almost 90% accuracy. I'm like, holy shit, man. But it is the best, like, right on the nose for that very question right there. It's not possible. Communism doesn't work. Count Dankula, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he tweeted out a pretty good gif of... there was a video of him just, like, holding up his pug, and then it was, like... It was just... What do you call it? Like a psychedelic image. It just says communism doesn't work in big flashing letters over the top. I love it.
Nice. The thing is that my only encouragement to any of your viewers is just like government, start local. Like start to change the municipality laws, start changing the local, Seattle City or like the city council members. Like I'm fighting kind of a battle right now at the University of Washington where I attend, and it's miserable. It's absolutely miserable. I'm fighting a war simply because of an issue that was brought up. I got yelled at by a staff member who literally just was like, "You're just a disgusting white straight male." I'm like, wait a minute, that's a Title IX violation. And there were witnesses to this. Stand by.
Nice.
So, and the thing is that there's got to be a point where people take a stand. One, learn how to argue. Like, don't be the people who just like, you're a cuck. You're gonna lose. Like, you sound like an idiot and you're gonna lose. Learn how to argue. Learn how to debate. Actually get your shit straight. Learn what you need to learn. And actually don't take this sitting down. Switch to the carrier, like vote with your wallet. I study economics. That's my area of study. Vote with your wallet. Good. Switch to Bing. Switch to Blue Moon. What is it?
Pale Moon. It's a different web browser.
Yeah, just switch to Pale Moon, to Firefox, to what's it called? But yeah, switch to anything other than Google. YouTube, go to VidMe. Anything else, just go to something else.
Yeah, definitely. We should, I think I'm going to probably I think Paul Joseph Watson said it, so I'm going to steal his words. I'm going to ride this wagon till the wheels fall off. But I still am definitely going to move over to VidMe. I actually have a profile on there. I just haven't uploaded there in about 3 months. But absolutely, the best way to get your point across is by, as you said, voting with your wallet. Like every time there's a shitty movie that comes out, for instance, and it doesn't do well, they look at that and go, well, apparently whatever we did, let's not do that again. Well, sometimes they don't say that.
I'll quote for Ghostbusters and Mass Effect Andromeda.
Absolutely. Right, Mass Effect Andromeda was actually somehow worse than I expected.
Yep. And now guess what? Now, what is it? BioWare Montreal is now being shut down, and no more Mass Effect games.
Yep.
So you vote with your wallets, people will listen, and they will either turn a corner or they'll go under. Which the problem is that I will disagree with Paul Joseph Watson on one thing, though, is the fact that one, I don't actually think it was Paul Joseph Watson. I think it was Ben Shapiro that I disagree with in regards to Google. I don't really consider has the right to be able to ban certain people on this platform any longer due to the fact that they are such a heavy monopoly.
Right. They're pretty much a utility. I mean, I know people don't like the idea of the internet being determined a utility because that in turn means that the government has to intervene and start to moderate and that type of thing.
And there's actually a legal strategy that I've actually been, so I actually aim to go to law school. And there's actually a legal strategy that they could actually deploy on this. There's a recent article that came out that said that if President Trump bans someone or blocks them on Twitter, that is a violation of their freedom of speech.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
It's the exact same thing. Right now, this is one of the only platforms that can allow such a speech pattern for the majority of the United States. Mm-hmm. With such a minority population under their control, which can actually genuinely influence the way elections are done or how voters will actually vote and what opinions they'll actually have. At that point, that is too much of a power for them to hold. And I'm a very libertarian guy. I hate this idea. Mm-hmm. I hate this idea. I genuinely do. If I were me like 6 months ago, I'd punch me in the face. But genuinely, Google has become too powerful, and when you're banning people just simply because they have wrongthink or they just have opinions that you don't like, that is a dangerous, dangerous thing. Yeah.
You are familiar with their recent announcement that they can remove videos and put them in a limited state, even if they don't break terms of service. So they're essentially saying there's a second unknown set of terms of service, and you don't get to know what they are. Each person has an arbitrarily different set of terms of service.
It's actually I called it the YouTube apartheid.
That's good.
So if you want to use that, feel free. It's the YouTube apartheid.
I might.
So it's unfortunately it's true.
Yeah, I think we might be at that time where antitrust laws might not do it. Like I see that as being our one of two options, or there is a third option. But we could hit them with some antitrust laws, or say, hey, you are a monopoly, you got to break it up a little bit, or we can make it a utility, or there's the other option, and that's to let them fail and then let the free market creates something better, which is the way we typically do things. However, with how much power Google already has, the chances of them failing, I don't think are very high.
Do you remember the old jokes that they used to do, like in Soviet Russia?
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Google in regards to like what China was doing. It's like, well, in China, they're banning Google. Well, in America, Google bans you. It's kicking my ass every single time I think of what Google is doing with YouTube, with Google in general, with what. Honestly, if you're worried about the Russian collusion, what the hell do you call Google? What the hell do you call Facebook? Honestly, if Russia turns out that yes, Russia was absolutely the ones who hacked the DNC, thank you. You're doing our press's job.
Seriously.
It's about fucking time someone actually told us what was going on, what was actually in the records.
Yeah, those leaks actually informed our people. The people and people wanted to be informed. The amount of hypervigilance on the part of the average American citizen was astounding, and it kind of warmed my heart. I would go to work and random people would be like, dude, did you hear the new fucking Wikipedia drop or WikiLeaks drop? It's huge. And then they give it to me. And like 4 or 5 different people would randomly like seek me out and be like, oh my God, do you hear about this thing? It's really huge. And politics essentially in current events went from something that was kind of a niche group to now it's actual mainstream entertainment. Because people are watching now. Not to mention Donald Trump's involved.
Yeah, God Emperor Trump. By the way, I did not vote for Donald Trump. I actually ended up voting for General Mattis.
Hell yeah, dude. I should have voted for General Mattis.
Well, I voted Ron Paul in 2008, 2012, and then 2016 I went for General Mattis. So I've never really liked any of the candidates who go forward. They don't represent me. So I this is me throwing my vote away, is to just go along with the crowd, because what has going along with the crowd gotten us? Well, now we have the Google hierarchy, the hive mind of Google, and now we have Donald Trump. No offense to you if you voted for him,
I
but
didn't know.
Now we have an orange fucking tweeter in office who wants to publicly through a tweet ban trans people from the military. And then it's not even policy.
You know, I'm curious, because you were a Marine. What's your opinion on that whole thing? I haven't heard somebody from the military's perspective on that.
So, I have a very strong stance on this, and it's because my opinion of this is it comes down to only people who have never served in the military and do not care about trans people want them to serve in the military. Currently, the trans community, according to their own numbers, suffer from roughly 42% suicide rate. Okay?
Yep.
Those numbers are across the country. They are the same in Alabama as they are in Washington. Mm-hmm. I'm going to quote Ben Shapiro on this, is the fact that the only time that there's been any numbers even near the rate that transgender people currently have suicide was Jews in Nazi Germany. And if you're willing to sit here and tell me with a straight face that transgender people are treated the same as Jews in Nazi Germany, I encourage you to say that out loud. And that's why I brought up the difference with Alabama versus Washington State. We're a very liberal state here, and same with California, but Alabama is a very conservative state, and they have the exact same suicide rate. So the societal difference is palpable. So you would think that there would be a very large number shift, but there's not. So that kind of excludes the societal difference. And when it comes to the military, we are currently suffering from 22 suicide attempts or successful suicides a day.
Yep.
Through current serving or veterans. So, and that raises, I believe the number came out to between 28 and 32% of all who will serve will either commit or attempt to commit suicide. Yeah. So let me get this straight. You want to take someone with a very high suicide rate and put them in a situation where it's a cliche for your partner to cheat on you when you're deployed, and then put them into a situation which will cause more depression because you're away from your family and support, which will increase their likelihood of suicide beyond 50%. So more than 1 in 2 chance of you committing suicide, which has an overwhelming effect on the morale of the unit, which a lot of people, if they have a friend of theirs commit suicide in the unit, I had one commit suicide in mine, and it ended up with 2 others trying to commit suicide later on.
Yep, it's like a domino effect.
It is. It's absolutely a domino effect. And then when you argue price, like it's like $20,000 per person. If you go with like the most liberal account, it's 15,000 people who are trans in the military. That overwhelming cost isn't really that big. But the thing is that the traditional contract is 4 years. During your transition, if you choose to transition, of course, you are undeployable for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The first 6 months to a year of your time in the service is simply training, in which case you are now given roughly about 6 months to a year's worth of time that you can actually deploy and do your job. Essentially, that would just become a health service, and that's not what the military is for.
Mm-hmm.
The military, I'm going to quote General Mattis on this one. It's like, we are here to be war fighters. We're supposed to go to battle, kill bodies, and win wars. That's it.
Yep. I could not have phrased that better myself. Because what I usually tell people is, well, you're telling me that people with a very high suicide rate would be the best possible people to send out in stressful situations to depend on in serious conflicts. It just seems like it's nothing against those people, but the numbers don't lie.
And don't get me wrong, are there already transgender people in the military? Yeah. And are they dependable people? Probably, yeah. I never ran into one when I was in the military personally. But are they doing their job? I'm hoping so, because other people's lives count on them. Mm-hmm. And that's what it comes down to, is what can you bring to the table? If you can't bring what you need to the table, there are other people's lives at risk, and that's unacceptable. It's one thing if you want to make them a paper pusher. It's one thing if you want to make them, anything else. Yeah. But in situations where people's lives matter, it's unacceptable to just leave that to a 1 in 2 chance.
I entirely agree. And then you have the whole idea, I believe, with like fire, what do you call it? Like fire departments. From what I've heard, they typically lower their standards so that people like the unfit people and then women can also make it. Not to say that women can't, etc., but just generally speaking, they tend to lower the bar so that more of the applicants that do apply can actually make the grade. And
so when it comes to women in combat, though, I will say one thing. I have met certain women who deserve to be in the infantry more than some men.
I'm sure you have. Have.
And the thing is, should we take it as a broad stroke? No, because biology doesn't lie. The likelihood that a female off the side of the street could just fireman's carry me, probably about 200 meters, is significantly less if I were to grab a random guy. That's just aggregate data-wise. But if we were to take it on a 1-by-1 basis, like, hey, did you make the standards? Cool, you can qualify. Go try. And if you fail, you fail.
Right.
But honestly, if you do it with a broad stroke, that's rather destructive in nature, and it's rather shallow thinking, and just kind of, I'll just be crass on this one, really fucking stupid.
Well, you would be right.
So I try. A lot of my thinking comes down to logic. If it doesn't really make sense, there's probably a reason as to why. You shouldn't have to do mental gymnastics with every single problem just to figure out the way reality works.
Indeed.
I mean, like complex issues like objective policy of how we should do healthcare. I'm a huge advocate for universal healthcare, except for our government, because our government kind of sucks at everything it does.
Everything, yeah. You're telling me you want to take these people from the DMV and you want to make going to the hospital like the DMV? Shoot me right in the head. Don't take me to the hospital afterwards.
Absolutely. You want to make your healthcare in the hands of Trump? Really? You there who advocate for healthcare and think Trump is the worst thing since Hitler. You want to give your healthcare into Trump's hands. Let me get this straight. Yeah, I thought not. So, I mean, the idea is great, but we're the only industrial. By the way, I'm also a huge fan of the metric system. So that's the one thing that I wish we could transfer to in the side for America. Like, just get to the metric system, deal with taxes and everything else next. I'm tired of the imperial system.
I can never remember the conversions, but with metric system, I always remember the conversions because they weren't stupid when they made it.
It's every 10.
Yeah.
Get it? See how easy this is? But yeah. Seriously though, it shouldn't be hard to figure out just simple things in life. And unfortunately, they have gotten to the point where even the transgender movement, whenever I argue this on my college, because I am not a quiet person in my campus, I'm sure you can tell. But the thing is that whenever I argue things like the transgender movement, all you've done is make being a woman useless. You're saying that I can right now just identify with no changes whatsoever. I can just become a woman. And that completely degrades everything that makes the differences of sexes genuinely awesome.
Right.
Honestly, I've seen women get out of bed when they're like 104-degree temperature and just go to work like it's fucking nothing. I have the sniffles, call off the war. Seriously, man, like there are serious differences between men and women that like they have their advantages and we have ours, and that's what makes us work together. For you to just completely disown that just because you want to identify as something, that's just, I'm sorry, that is just awful. That makes you a horrible person.
Right? Did you see like I believe it was right after the Google memo came out. A lot of like Salon, Slate, and a lot of left-leaning outlets came out with all of these articles saying, well, science isn't always right. And one of them was like, we need to stop listening to science. There's like 4 of them, man. It's the most, because remember, they wanted to beat everybody over the head whenever it comes to climate change with science is king. Science doesn't lie. 100%. We have 1,000% of scientists in this universe that all agree. Just they're so high off their own farts, man. I just don't believe. Like I'm sure I know the data speaks for itself, but then they take it and blow it out of proportion to push their narrative, and the whole time I just feel like they're just trying to sell me something that I don't want.
Do you remember that one video? It was kind of small, but it was like semi-viral. It was like that one black girl who was like, "We need to scrap science and start from scratch."
Oh, dude, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. I think, thankfully, I believe that happened in Africa, so the end isn't nigh yet. But
but that's what that reminded me of. It's like, you know what? Science isn't always right. Let's just scrap it, and then like here's the absolute truth that Google has dictated, and then fit your science around it. And you know what it reminds me of? The exact same reason I became an atheist. Holy shit!
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
No, I think it's because it's the same sort of thing. They're making reality. They're making like a religious version, an occultist version of reality that they all worship, and it doesn't even closely resemble the reality that we all live in. Like they say, oh, black people are hunted down in the streets, and then you look out in the streets, and there's a black guy over there. There's a cop right over there.
My favorite one is the voter ID cards.
Oh
voting.
My God. Yeah.
Like, do you know how many minorities don't have voter IDs? And like, I've literally been all over the country. I don't know a single person who doesn't have a form of an ID.
Yeah. In fact,
every single man, woman, and child, when you were born, you are given a social security number, and it costs $2 to go get a replacement.
Yeah, there was an interesting piece on Fox News, actually, which I like 3 people from Fox News. That would be Tucker. Yeah, I like Tucker Carlson. I like Greg Gutfeld, and I like I think his name is Waters. I forget his full name, but I do like Waters. Those are the only 3 people. I don't like the network at all, but I do like those 3 personalities. But Waters went out and talked to a bunch of people, a bunch of liberal white people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, voter ID laws are racist because black people can't afford IDs. It's too much trouble." And then he interviewed a bunch of black people, and they're like, "Hey, do you have an ID?" And they're like, "Absolutely, I have to have an ID to do everything. I got an ID as soon as I turned like 16." And each and every single one of them is like, "Of course I have an ID." And they're like, "Do you think it's racist to ask for IDs to vote?" And they're like, "No, you have to have an ID to go buy cigarettes. Why wouldn't I have to go out, get an ID to go vote?"
And I think this is what the left, and when I say again the left, is like the whole "you're a racist if you disagree with me" kind.
The regressives.
It's the consistent infantilization of everyone.
Yeah. Every oppressed group is too little to stand up for themselves. It's the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's the last form of systemic racism that we genuinely have is a mixture of the mass incarceration and affirmative action. Yeah. And it's because you can't do it on your own, so we have to have a quota system for you.
Well, even worse is that the affirmative action system discriminates against Asian Americans, Jewish Americans, and East Indian Americans by, like, SATs. They have to score higher than everybody else in order to get accepted.
Like, I honestly can't get behind, like, anybody who's a white supremacist, because technically speaking, like, logically and biologically speaking, you're talking about, okay, Asians are technically the smartest with 105 average IQ compared to whites with 100. Then you also have, like, black people are, like, far more physically able than us on a regular basis most of the time. Like, they can eat like 30 McNuggets a day and they're just fucking ripped. I'm like, fuck, man. Fuck you.
Yeah, right. Everyone has their advantages.
Yeah,
and
it's like
we kind of have
an advantage. Like, so if you're going to talk about white supremacy, it's like, well, which one is it? On a biological factor? Well, you're probably going to lose on that one. So but either way, it's just that low expectation. It's the consistent infantilization. You can't do it without government assistance, and I think that's what the ploy is to slowly but surely get. And you heard Obama do this when he was in office. Like, Obamacare is a success because now we have blah 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 on government insurance. I'm like, the amount of, you shouldn't want government dependency as a form of a success. You should want to get them on their own feet so they can earn their own way. And that's a successful government program that gave them a leg up so they don't have to depend on the government. And so I think that's what it is like, it's the left, and I will say the liberals, the Democratic Party, trying to get every single person absolutely dependent on the government so that way they have to vote Democrat, or else every single thing that they'll ever have is taken away.
Yeah, I entirely agree with you. 100%. That seems to be what they do. They either try to convince you that allegiance with them and allyship with them is the only way to pave a rightful future, because Republicans are, of course, all racist, sexist, homophobe, Islamophobe, etc.
The Hillary Clinton speech, the racist, the transphobic.
She just goes through every oppressed group because together, that was her whole thing, together they can fight the white people. And
now it reminds me of the Jeremy Corbyn minority government over in the UK. Like, well, now you guys have to band together, you morons. Good job, Theresa May.
Right. He got actually more votes than they thought didn't he almost win and therefore has quite a bit of pull over there?
They didn't almost win. It was just Theresa May almost lost. And so that's what it came down to. So it wasn't like Jeremy Corbyn got a lot of votes. It was just a matter of, like, all the votes for Theresa May was, like, evenly distributed amongst the other parties. And so, like, Jeremy Corbyn being part of the Labour Party is like, yeah, he got the Labour Party got the majority of those votes, but that's only because Theresa May was like, by the way, we're going to do everything wrong. We're going to take everything from you and just, we're going to control the internet. We're going to take money and food away from the elderly. It's like, why don't you just say you're going to go kick puppies? Why don't you? Shit.
And then there was that thing with the kid that, and whether you're on one side or the other, just, it was a bad PR move. The Charlie Gard case, where the kid that basically they were like, okay, this guy has a terrible disorder. We don't have, he's on state care, so we're just going to let him die with dignity, they said. And the parents who had been given they started a GoFundMe and it had like millions of pounds. They wanted to come to America to try to find a specialist. Well, the court then denied them, said, well, no, you're not allowed to leave. He's part of this government, and we order that you let him die. And It was just one of those things, whether you're against it or not, because it's one of those things where you're like, okay, well, it was almost an incurable disease he had. And then the other people were saying, well, he should have had the shot at getting a specialist. Regardless, it was a PR nightmare for them. They just looked like absolute monsters. I remember way back when Obamacare was coming through, they were like, oh, death panels aren't real. That never happens. Well, I believe what we just witnessed was a death panel. That was a fucking death panel. Like, whether you agree that the kid should have died or not, that was legitimately what that was. So
it absolutely was. And the thing is, like, I have to, again, I debate almost every single issue under the sun at my college campus because I'm always, as a white straight male, the horrible crooks of, Satan incarnate.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, they pretty much, I'm not allowed to speak without kind of someone looking at me like I'm a piece of shit. And it's most of the time is because like, no, like I was told that white people invented racism. Like, no, racism transcends race. Like, but you need systemic and inter power, like inter power that's in the government, institutional power. Like, well, I what happens if a black guy hates a Muslim?
Yeah.
And they're like, and you every single time I see like the breaks, I see the breaks in their brain. They're like, does not compute. And it's great to watch. And so it's like, well, no, they can just be prejudiced. And it's like, no, racism comes down to two different things: how you treat someone and why. How do you treat someone? Are you going to treat them like an asshole? All right, cool. Why are you doing that? Is it because they're black? Then you're the asshole. Are you going to do it because they're a fucking asshole? Well, yeah, good. Treat them like an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. Like, are they an asshole? Are they being an asshole? Good. Treat them like an asshole. But if you're going to treat them like that because they're black, then you're a fucking douchebag.
Yeah. Agreed.
It shouldn't be this hard, but I will admit, and I've told this to my professor's face before. I hate my university. I genuinely do. I hate my university. It's pure garbage. It's absolute pure garbage. Like I hate to say that because I'm getting a degree from it, but the thing is, this is like the #1 prestigious university in all of Washington State. It's the University of Washington, Seattle. It's like the premier college to come to here in Washington. It's like college is bullshit, dude.
Sure
like
is.
everything is just like a check in the box. It's not even the quality of work because just most of this stuff is just you regurgitate what they want to hear. I will tell my professors exactly that I disagree with them and I think this sentiment is bullshit, and they will go, just write it down.
Yeah.
What's the point?
That's the thing. It's fake credentials essentially, which is why I kind of dropped out of college. I mean, I went for 4 or 5 years at my local community college, and I almost got a full on, huh?
That's really long for a community college, by the way.
Yeah, I took it slow because I was working a full-time job, so I just took 2 classes at a time. But I earned almost an entire degree of psychology. In fact, I can still go back, and I think there are 2 classes. I'm 2 classes away from getting my general ed and my psychology degree. It's been a long time, but that knowledge is still in there somewhere. But that was my experience there was just everyone there they're super nice, but they're too nice. No one puts their foot down. There's no sense of authority. Anyone can do anything they want just about.
Yeah, it's with the way that, again, it's the regressive left on campus, because I consider college, like campus regressive leftism, is a lot worse than like the mainstream regressive left. Mm-hmm. The college, man, that's a fucking cult right there.
Oh,
but
yeah.
all it is just fascism hidden behind politeness.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this groupthink that is definitely prevalent throughout the whole thing. It's through their student activities, throughout their campus like guidelines. It's very clear where they stand politically.
Yeah, and the thing is that whenever I'm on campus, I've actually agreed with a couple of them before. This all started. You can actually find my YouTube channel. It's literally just my name, Kyle Broussard. I'm not like a YouTube dude or anything like that. But it was just, I went to a Women of Color conference. It was like this big grouping in the middle of in the square of my college. I just went up to go see what it was, and I agreed with like 95% of everything they said. It's like, yeah, we should be able to walk down the street without being shot by a cop. Yeah, absolutely. We should be able to practice our religion without fear if we're Muslim. Yeah, go for it. White people invented racism. I would disagree with that. People came up behind me and were like, yeah, you're not wanted here. You're not welcome.
Because you're white.
You can't film here. I'm like, yes, I can. And it's like, no, you can't. It's a violation. You're in our, and you can watch it, man. It's like the first 2 things on my YouTube channel. It's ridiculous. I just started recording things just to keep it on record.
Yeah. That was sort of how my channel started, even not in real life, but I would just find things online and be like, this is an interesting thing. This is an interesting thing. And then suddenly here we are.
Yeah. And now you're talking to, apparently the Virtuous Skinhead.
Yeah, well, hey, it wouldn't be the first time. Well, first time to talk to you, but not the first time I've talked to a skinhead then.
Actually, I think you just spoke to the same people. Didn't you talk to the University of Texas?
Yeah, his name was Isaac.
Yeah, that's the same guy who gave me that nickname.
Oh, cool. That's interesting. He's a pretty cool dude. I enjoyed talking to him, actually.
Yeah, really cool guy. Because I remember you popping up on there. I was like, yeah, with Wild Smile. I'm like, oh, I just started listening to him. Oh, that's cool.
Right on. Hey, we're turning into a nice little community.
Yeah, I'm not really prevalent on the YouTube, but although I would recommend look up Very Bad News, and he's a buddy of mine. I'm not plugging his channel or anything, but there's a guy that I had him link up with. On occasion, I help him with like people who to interview and stuff. He comes to rallies with me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we found this one guy who genuinely believes he's Hitler's grandson.
Nice. Have you heard the theories that Hitler actually escaped to Argentina and he died of old age?
I don't have it.
I love conspiracy theories, man.
I will go back to my atheism on that one. It's like I do not have enough data or evidence to have an opinion.
It's pretty intricate. Like I said, I don't know. I believe it. I'm really into conspiracy theories, but I like reading them like science fiction. Even though like sometimes I do buy it, but most of the time it's just like, no, this is kind of like a LARPing sci-fi adventure for me. But essentially the long story is, or the short story is, he had one of his imposters. He was actually killed, and then the soldiers continuously burned his body, dug him, burnt his body, dug him, burnt his body, dug him over and over again, so you couldn't tell that it was him. I don't even know. But then he apparently escaped to Argentina, and then the evidence is that there is this maid somewhere that said, I saw him and I know it was him. He just didn't have his mustache. Basically because there was a friend from out of town visiting and they spoke German. I mean, I don't know. I don't find it likely.
2 weeks later, she saw Jesus in her toast, so we don't care.
Oh, man, that doesn't happen anymore. It's disappointing.
I know, right? Damn it. Every time. All those miracles went away right when we fucking invented photographs.
Pretty much. As soon as the internet came, no one was looking at their toast anymore.
I know, right? Except for like those. It's like, by the way, look, there's a stain on the walls. Like, we don't care. Shut up. Go away. We stopped caring a long time ago.
Absolutely.
Oh man, it's starting to get like 1:30 in the morning. So
yeah, I was literally thinking the same thing, and it has been perfectly an hour, so it was very well timed.
Nice, perfect.
Well, I would love to talk to you again. It was a blast discussing all of this, and thanks for sharing.
Yeah, anytime, man.
Right on. I actually followed you on Twitter, so if you ever find anything interesting or just want to use my platform as a vessel to explain something, feel free to hit me up.
Sounds good, man. Thanks
right
much.
On. Later.
Bye.